Ferrari reacts to the Mercedes engine. The countermove has already started according to Trini. The Mercedes engine theme still shakes the paddock, and Ferrari is already ready for a new solution ahead of 2027. The Mercedes engine theme is destined to become one of Formula One's central issues for the future. And what's happening behind the scenes is incredible. But before discovering exactly what the Mercedes trick is, how Ferrari is reacting, and what will happen in 2027, stay until the end. Because what you're about to hear is explosive. The one raising the case with his direct and unfiltered style was Leo Trini, who reconstructed a technical scenario as complex as potentially explosive. According to what Trini reported at Maranello, there would now be widespread conviction that the FIA might consider the solution developed by Mercedes as regular. A decision that, while formally legitimate, would be perceived as favorable to Toto Wolff's team and potentially game-changing for the championship. As Trini writes, at Ferrari, they believe the noble FIA will side with Toto Wolff's men, also through rather elastic regulatory interpretations that could set a dangerous precedent for the future. This is a strong statement revealing the frustration and suspicion creeping through Maranello regarding how this situation will be handled by the Federation and what it means for competitive balance. Precisely for this reason, Ferrari would have already started moving. The engine structure led by Enrico Gualtieri would have started development work, looking even toward 2027, with the objective of replicating or compensating for the hypothesized technical advantage on Mercedes. The project's fulcrum would be research for a dynamic compression ratio obtainable by intervening on key components like the connecting rod to be redesigned internally. The suspicion, always according to Trini, stems from the fact the FIA already deemed legal the so-called Mercedes trick, a system that would guarantee a contained but real gain from a minimum of 5 horsepower to a maximum of 10 horsepower, with some sources even suggesting 15. Numbers that in modern Formula One can certainly make a difference between winning and losing. In particular, attention is directed toward the connecting rod that would return to being produced internally and designed with a higher thermal expansion coefficient than standard components. The objective is to compensate for compression loss due to thermal expansion during operation, effectively replicating the principle that would have made the Mercedes solution effective. This is a sophisticated engineering approach, showing how deep Ferrari is going to try to equal this alleged Mercedes advantage. The real limit, however, is time. Trini emphasizes how even in the most optimistic scenario, this Ferrari solution wouldn't arrive at the dyno before summer 2026 due to design, production, and testing requirements. Translated, if it works, we'll see it on track only in 2027. The risk is Mercedes is deliberately masking the advantage in testing, making it even more difficult for rivals to react and catch up in time. Ferrari would be trying to replicate the Mercedes trick regarding compression ratio also on its engine. Here's the sensational revelation emerging about work started at Ferrari. The Maranello team would really be trying to replicate what is the much-discussed Mercedes trick on the 2026 engine. We know there have been many meetings between the FIA and various engine manufacturers recently to evaluate further checks on the compression ratio, possibly used by Mercedes. Toto Wolff also openly attacked rivals on this theme, showing he too is aware of tensions this situation is creating in the paddock. Currently, technical checks are performed cold, a condition in which Mercedes would result compliant with regulations. Suspicions, however, concern the power unit's behavior once turned on. The compression ratio could reach 18:1 instead of the maximum allowed 16:1. This would thus guarantee a significant performance advantage potential. Now, there are those who believe the FIA won't ban this solution, and for this reason Ferrari would be moving to replicate it. This is the strategic reading Maranello is making of the situation. Rather than hoping the FIA intervenes, they're preparing their technical response. It's a pragmatic approach even if it arrives a year late compared to Mercedes. At Maranello, the following was decided according to Trini. The team directed by engineer Gualtieri has started working on the 2027 engine with some substantial modifications that aim precisely to create a dynamic compression ratio. The heads of the engine technical office gave the green light for this very project, They suspect the FIA's Tombazis declared the Mercedes trick fully legal. Now, the objective at Ferrari is to create a dynamic compression ratio. How? By modifying the connecting rod that Ferrari will have to return to producing in-house. Connecting rod to be designed with a high enough thermal expansion coefficient to make it elongate and consequently reverse the compression loss due to thermal expansion. This is what Leo Trini reported on the Profondo Rosso blog. It's a revelation that, if confirmed, could truly see Mercedes engine dominance in 2026. Only in 2027, then, could the prancing horse use a similar advantage, provided the FIA doesn't then decide to ban it quickly and leave Ferrari screwed again. Audi is the one that pushed most to have the trick from the house with the three-pointed star eliminated. The exact advantages aren't yet known, but there's talk even of 15 horsepower with significant gain in lap time terms. This would explain why Audi as a new entrant is so concerned about this situation. Starting their Formula One adventure with such a significant engine gap would be devastating. To me, it appears that in the best possible and imaginable hypothesis, this new solution won't be tested at the dyno before summer 2026. For production timing issues, Trini says, therefore, if it works first time, Ferrari will put it on track only in 2027. We'll see what happens in coming months. So this situation is truly complex and frustrating at the same time. On one hand, I can understand Ferrari's frustration completely. If Mercedes found a regulatory gray area and the FIA considers it legal, technically there's nothing wrong with their approach. But on the other hand, this creates a dangerous precedent. Formula One should be a fair competition where whoever makes the best car wins, not whoever finds the cleverest trick others can't replicate for an entire year. The fact Ferrari feels forced to work already on the 2027 engine while we're still starting the 2026 season says everything about the situation's gravity. They're practically admitting 2026 could be a lost year in engine competitiveness terms. The thing worrying me most is time. Even if everything goes perfectly, the Ferrari solution won't arrive before summer 2026. This means for half the season or more, Mercedes could have a 5, 10, or even 15 horsepower advantage according to some sources. And then there's the risk Trini mentions. What happens if the FIA suddenly decides to ban this solution mid-2027 when Ferrari finally implemented it? It would be total disaster. Money spent, time lost, and no benefit. Personally, I believe the FIA should be clearer and more decisive on these issues. They can't allow such enormous gray areas in an era with budget cap where every euro spent counts. Either the solution is legal for everyone and everyone can copy it, or it's illegal and should be banned immediately. One thing is certain, this dynamic compression ratio story will be one of 2026 and 2027's dominant themes. Keep an eye on it because it could determine who wins the next championships.